The snow that day fell quietly, as if even the sky was afraid to disturb the peace of this God-forgotten village. The old wooden gate, long warped, creaked, and neighbor Zina stepped into the house from the street. She held a letter in her hands, sealed with rough paper and tightly closed. "Maria Yefimovna, it's from the city, urgent," said Zina, placing the envelope on the table without looking her in the eyes. Maria Yefimovna, a small, stooped woman in a worn scarf she hadn't taken off since her son went to the front, sat down on a stool and silently stared at the letter. Her heart clenched. She had seen such letters before. She had already accompanied the neighbor's wife to the cemetery after her son was buried. She had seen women in black scarves standing silently by the shop, no longer laughing. She didn't open the letter for 2 whole hours. She silently prayed, clutching the cross her son had given her before he left. And then she opened it. "We regret to inform you." She couldn't read any further. Her vision darkened. The world became deaf. She didn't scream. She only whispered, "Lord, why should I go on living now?" 3 years passed. 3 long years of silence. Every day Maria walked to the gate, as if hoping. But the house remained quiet. No calls. No letters. Only silence, only tears in the night. The neighbors stopped visiting. What could anyone say to a mother who had lost her only son? She wore black, never took off her mourning clothes. She had no grave to visit. He was buried somewhere far away in foreign soil. She prayed for his soul, lit candles, gave alms in his name. He had been her light, her pride, her last hope, after her husband had died of a stroke. But on that January day, when snow again crunched underfoot and the wind pierced to the bone, someone knocked on the gate. Softly at first, then louder. Maria thought, the postman? She opened the door and froze. Kneeling in the snow was him. "Mom," his voice trembled. "Forgive me." Her knees gave out. She couldn't believe it. It was him. Scruffy, thin, with bruises under his eyes. But her son, her boy, alive. He cried, sobbed, clinging to her chest. And she stroked his hair, kissed his forehead, and whispered like a prayer, "Lord, why did you grant me this happiness?" He couldn't tell her everything at once. They had mistaken him for someone else. After that battle, they found a medallion that looked like his. The body was burned unrecognizable. The documents were gone. He was presumed dead and they sent the letter. But he had been in a hospital with a severe head injury, and for a long time didn't remember his name, his address. Only after 2 years did his memory return. He searched for the way home, on foot, hitchhiking through foreign towns and villages. When he returned, she hadn't been living, just existing. He gave her life again. After that meeting, time seemed to stop. Maria Yefimovna didn't sleep for several nights, afraid it was a dream. Afraid she would wake and be alone again. Her son Alexei slept on the old couch in the living room, where his school backpack had once stood, and now his military duffel. He groaned softly in his sleep, as if still fighting ghosts. "It's all right, son. You're home," she whispered, sitting beside him. By morning, she had made everything she could, potato dumplings, pickles, pies, borscht, as if trying to feed him for all 3 years he had spent in the other world. He ate in silence, only occasionally brushing away tears and looking at her like he couldn't believe it either. "Mom, how did you live?" he finally asked. She lowered her gaze to her cup. "How do the dead live, son?" "I didn't live. I survived. You were everything to me." They talked for hours. Alexei told how during that battle they came under mortar fire. He woke up in a hospital, in a strange town, without documents, without memory, without a past. His name came back after a year. At first, fragments, then his mother's face, the gate to their house, the dog they had buried before he left. But by the time he recovered, fought his way through the paperwork in military archives, many more months had passed. "And here I am, Mom," he knelt at her feet. "Forgive me for making you bury me alive." The neighbors didn't believe it at first. Some thought it was a scam. Some crossed themselves. "He came back from the dead," some cried with Maria. "That letter. It changed everything," she once said to the district officer who came to verify that Alexei was indeed Alexei. "It killed me. And now he brought me back to life." She began living again. Smiling. For the first time in 3 years, the bathhouse was heated, laughter returned to the home. Alexei fixed the roof, carried firewood, helped the neighbors. And in the evenings he sat with his mother by the window, drank tea, and told her what it had been like. But wounds don't heal quickly. One night Maria woke to a scream. Alexei was crying out, thrashing in his sleep. She ran to him, hugged him, held him to her chest like when he was a child. And she understood. He had survived, but inside, he was still there. She never let him go again. And he didn't want to leave. He began writing letters to other mothers, those still waiting for their sons. He traveled to the regional center, searched archives, made calls, wrote. He became a kind of bridge between the living and those long buried. Mom, I live now not just for myself. For those who truly are gone. I didn't come back for nothing. She nodded. And her heart, crushed 3 years ago, now beat with new strength. I remember every second of that day. As if it happened yesterday, not 3 years ago. I remember standing by the gate with the letter in my hands. The paper was gray, cold, as if soaked in death. I recognized the envelope immediately. That kind usually only brought one thing, grief. Until that day, I believed my Lyashka would return. Maybe not right away, maybe covered in mud, exhausted, but he would return. He was like that, stubborn, resilient, not one to give up. He always told me, "Don't cry, Mom. I'm tough. I'll come back, and I'll make you borscht." And then nothing. Silence. The letter. Killed in action. Buried in a mass grave. I didn't scream. You know, sometimes grief cuts so deep, not even tears come. I just sat down on the floor, right there in the kitchen, held the letter to my chest and froze. Like a statue. Everything was a blur. Neighbors came, offered sympathy. Someone brought soup, someone a candle. I thanked them, but I couldn't hear. I died that day with him. Lived on autopilot. Said I was holding on for his memory. But really, I was just counting days. Sometimes I thought I heard him call. "Mom, I'm here." I'd run outside, snow, wind, silence. And inside, emptiness. 3 months before the letter he wrote. "Mom, it's hell here, but I'm hanging on. Pray for me. If I don't write, don't worry. There's almost no connection." That was his last letter. Then nothing. Later I learned they were ambushed. Lyashka was in reconnaissance. The group was hit by artillery. Many died instantly. Those they couldn't identify, they buried in a common grave. And nearby, they found a patch with a name like my son's. Not his, just similar. They rushed, made mistakes. And he remained there. Under the rubble. Alive. Wounded. Half broken. A shattered leg, a cracked skull, burns. Strangers found him, took him to a hospital. He didn't remember his name, not at first, not for a month. He didn't even recognize his face. They thought he was dead. But he lived. In complete darkness of memory. A year passed. Memories returned in fragments. He started writing letters. To doctors, soldiers, archives. No one replied. Everyone had already received a death notice. And I had already ordered a memorial service. When I saw him in the snow, on his knees in uniform, his face full of pain, my heart stopped. I thought I saw a ghost. But he hugged me. Cried like a child. "Mommy, I'm alive." I sobbed. We cried together, like never before. But as if fate hadn't had enough. A month after he returned, I noticed something strange. He became quiet. Withdrawn. At night he moaned. Called out to someone. I saw it, he wasn't here. He was still there. In the hell of war. One night I woke, and he was gone. The front door wide open. Footprints in the snow. I ran out, panicking. Found him by the well. Sitting all in snow, barefoot. Lips blue, eyes hollow. "Mom. I wasn't supposed to survive," he whispered. I wrapped him in a shawl, held him close, warmed him. Since then we've lived together. I don't let him out of my sight. I'm afraid that if I turn away, he'll disappear again. Maybe not in a hospital. Maybe in his mind. Or forever. That one letter killed me. And left him with a wound that can't be stitched. But you know what? I'm not complaining. He's alive. So I breathe. Months passed. Winter retreated, spring came. Our garden bloomed again. I woke to birdsong, lit the samovar, cleaned